Hey, glad you could make it. Another end to another day. Another long day down. I've got another good bourbon for you today. Again, this one, I know we did the Elijah Craig already. This is another price point. It's even lower, actually, than Elijah Craig, but still, in my opinion, honestly, pretty good bourbon. I haven't had a glass of it in a little bit. Normally, I have a lot to choose from, but I figured we would hit this one today. Let me go grab it right quick. We'll flip this light on over here, illuminate some things. This is 1792 small batch. Again, very low price point. I'm not going to throw prices out because here where I live, it may not be the same price, but it's typically going to be pretty low. We grab these glasses here. I'll pour us one. There. A little bit in there. Doesn't cling quite as well as the Elijah Craig, but here's yours. Don't worry, if you don't drink it, I will. Pour me a little bit in here. Leave this bottle out here. This, I have several small batch bourbons on my shelf, and small batch can mean a lot of things to a lot of different distilleries. It could be a couple of barrels all the way up to whatever they consider quote unquote small to be. But it's not blended as much as some others. Now, I'm not saying other bourbons are blended necessarily, except for we know that like the Four Roses and Barrel and things like that, those are blends. But let's look at this one. Yeah, it's they call it having legs on it. It's oils or whatever in there that cling to the glass. It does decent, but it's pretty thin. I mean, it runs down pretty quick. On the nose, not, to me personally, not as pleasant as the Elijah Craig. Little more punch to it in your face. But I'm still, but you can tell it's rather young again. And here in the next couple of days, we'll get into some that I think have a little more of the darker flavors, more leather, tobacco, and things like that. But this one, not that I have anything on my shelf that's going to knock your socks off. If you are used to swigging down Pappy Van Winkle, then all I'm doing is showing you in price point what's decent to have on the shelf. This one, some people may wrinkle their nose at a little. I wouldn't. It's a good bourbon to juxtapose against some of the other ones. I think we need that every once in a while. A little air in this thing. It smells not quite as sweet as the Elijah. A little bit rougher, I think, than the Elijah Craig, but I kind of like a bite to it. I think this one is probably, it's in that 46.85%. The 93.7 proof. I have some higher proofs up there, Booker's, some barrel strength stuff. But for the regular old weekday, low octane's fine. But this is a good flavor. and good nose on it. It is what you're getting. Now, you're at a really low price point, and I don't think the quality would stand up to, say, even Elijah Craig. I think Elijah Craig is an underpriced bourbon for what it is. But this one is probably pretty close to right on. But like I said, it's nice to have it to compare and contrast against some of the others. Not as sweet at all. I don't get the candy. The finish on it, it's actually probably a little longer finish than Elijah Craig, but that's not saying it's better, because I don't really enjoy the finish is kind of bland. I mean, it's there and it lingers there a little bit, but it's sort of like having a wonderful piece of food in front of you that smells delicious, and then you bite into it and they forgot to salt it. You know, it's something to that effect. But not saying it's a bad bourbon. I enjoy it. I enjoy bourbon. But it does have a lot of shallow qualities, I think, to it. Just know going in that you're not buying this bottle to impress a bunch of friends with. This is a good one that's not going to run anyone off, but it's certainly not going to be an impressive a part of your lineup. I would call it lower shelf, even though I only have one shelf and it's all high up there. If I had a lower shelf, I would put this on it. But other than that, it's bourbon. I'm getting caramel. A little. You have to dig for it with this bourbon. You really do. This one doesn't jump out at you. You have to really dig for what you're looking for. But I think a good starter bourbon, someone that hasn't tried a lot of bourbons and doesn't have a developed palate. But I think though, depending on their taste, if they smoke cigars, it's probably a good one. If they don't smoke cigars or eat a lot of spicy food, maybe the Elijah Craig or even some of the Knob Creek, Beam Suntory line makes some good lineups. It's got the Basil Hayden's and Booker's and Knob Creeks and things like that. And I have two knobs up there on the shelf. One of them is the 100 proof and the other one's 120. And I like them both, but if you put them side by side, you're going to gravitate to that 120 proof because it's a little bit heavier. Well, bourbon drinkers will. If you're not that into it or you haven't done it very long, maybe not. But anyway, I'm going to finish this out. Don't want to let these videos run too long because they are massive and difficult to process and upload. But please subscribe and come back and join me anytime. I'm going to keep putting these videos out. But if you want to get alerted and see more, please subscribe.